What's going on, guys? How you doing? We're on to part 4, Beyond the Lighted Stage. Rolling through this. Let's do it. Bam.
And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart, closer to the heart. Blacksmith and the artist reflected in their art. They forge their creativity closer to the heart. Yes, closer to the heart.
I mean, what other drummer is doing that?
These were the salad days because
the salad
we were
days?
transitioning and we could
Is that
feel
what he said?
it. The world was expanding for us, starting to record in England, starting to get success in England, and to go over there and actually have a song on the charts and play Hemispheres was really gratifying because all of our heroes were English rock musicians. So that gave us a tremendous amount of confidence.
Records progressed, the palette got bigger and bigger. Neil was constantly changing and adding to his drum kit, and we had more choice of guitars and acoustic guitars. Bass pedals, the keyboards developed every time we went into the studio. Ged was staying on top of that. The first time I worked with the band, it was a 3-piece. I think we may have had a cowbell.
Held within the pleasure dome, decreed by Khan, to take my bitter triumph as a mad immortal man. Never more shall I return, escape these flames of life, for I have dined on honeydew and drunk the milk of paradise. Woe is it,
You know what really helped us get out of that robe period was touring with UFO. They made fun of us relentlessly, and they would hold up signs and make fun of our lyrics. And I would go up to my microphone, and there'd be a pair of furry slippers nailed to the stage beside my mic. And they used to call me Glee, and guys would be at the side telling me, "It goes perfect with your robe, Glee." It was good for us because you go on stage thinking maybe there has to be some other thing. But in the end, it is always back to the music for us.
Yeah. Damn, it was UFO. Damn.
Trouble with the vapors, and they're quite convinced they're right. They say the oaks are just too lofty, and they grab up for the light. But the oaks can't help their feelings if they like the way they're made. And they wonder why the maple can't be happy in their shade.
Hemispheres was the album that broke the camel's back in terms of long songs. The Hemisphere side of that album was incredibly complex, both thematically and structurally.
When our weary world was young, struggle like the ancients but began the gods of love and reason. Sought the love who ruled the fate of man.
We went to a little farmhouse in Wales and wrote all that music, arranged it, learned how to play it. It was so ambitious and so demanding, so experimental, all of that.
It was quite manic, and our hours became later and later and later, and it just kind of went around so that we were going to bed at noon and we were getting up at 7 o'clock and having breakfast then and then working through the night to the morning, unending, with no time off.
Even the shorter songs on that record, like La Villa Strangiato, were really hard. And of course, we were bound and determined to record La Villa Strangiato live in one take.
It was so complicated and went through so many different mood and time signature changes, it would needed to have been charted out in order to keep track of where you were at any given point.
I think we spent 11 days trying to record the bed track only. And we finally had to admit defeat. We had to do it in 3 parts.
That one kind of slow, open soul that Alex plays, the way he built that up had a huge impression on me because he was creating a mood by playing very, very sparsely and just slowly amping up the intensity. I just thought that was the greatest thing in terms of lead guitar dynamics and phrasing. I see them as the high priests of conceptual metal. Big influence. Huge.
Probably the hardest song I ever learned how to play was La Via Stringata. The drumming it takes everything you got to get through it.
That was the benchmark of drumming when I was a kid. I could play YYZ, but can you play La Via Stringata?
I do like La Via Stringata better than YYZ. By the way, my chord I said YYZ, so all you Canadians can go
We'd written material that was really a little beyond us, considering our level of musicianship at the time. And that was the thing about Rush. We're always overreaching.
You gotta do that.
When you listen
That's
to early
good, though.
Rush,
That
I mean, it was like the
develops
riffs were simpler.
Right.
It got more complex as it kept going. With the arrangements, it would be so long. You know, it'd be like the boys would be up there going, we did write this, didn't we? You know, it's like, what part of the song are we in?
If you could learn those songs, that was a stepping stone to just about everything you needed to know. If you could play those songs with some proficiency, you could play pretty much anything else.
Just eerily precise. Everything was just right on the nuggets. Like, I bet if you went in with a computer, Neil Peart would probably be right on the beat to, like, an atom. Or at least that's how it sounds when you're listening with the headphones. You're like, oh, he's not even human.
Geddy Lee is still my favorite bass player. And be like, wow, that guy who's shredding the bass is also singing and playing the keyboards with his feet and hands. And he would move his microphone a lot with his nose, which was, he actually figured a way to use it. If it weren't for the nose, I don't think he could have done the keyboards and bass and singing. I really don't. I think the nose was what enabled him to get the microphone where he needed to be. He has a big nose. Props to the nose.
We knew at the time, you know, we were overreaching ourselves, and we agreed among ourselves in 1978 when we finished Hemispheres, we're not doing this again. You know, we're not making this kind of record again. We knew that was the end of that era of the epics.
You've been touring now for how many years?
Well, professionally in the United States and around the
So
world
many of
about
these
5
clips I've
About
seen.
5 years. How many
They
concerts
like
do you average a year?
pulled from, right?
200, maybe more.
200 concerts a year for 5 years. How long can you keep that?
As long as we can, as long as we're still standing.
We were working all the time. I remember at one point we counted 17 one-nighters in a row. We were getting fried and getting stupid, not taking care of ourselves, just burning out. We didn't like what we were becoming as people. In my personal life, I was getting alienated from my wife. We were just starting to have kids. And once you start introducing children into your life, you can't be so selfish. You just can't.
Right.
I think we all cherish the fact that we're pretty normal guys. I got married when I was young. I had a family early. I introduced Geddy's wife to him when we were teenagers. Family was the most important thing to me in my life.
We were trying to remember music is just one of the things we had chosen to do with our lives, not everything. If we'd kept going like that, we would have crashed. Something started to break. And I think the heaviness of Hemispheres made us want to run away from that kind of album. So we ran from Hemispheres straight into Spirit of Radio.
God bless him. Neil always reminds me of a drummer friend I have. Just how he looks when he plays, there's something about it.
Begin the day with a friendly voice, a companion unobtrusive. Plays that song that's so elusive, and the magic music makes your morning mood.
Permanent Waves was a joy to me. We were in Canada, you know, our families were close. That's when we discovered the studio, and the songs just came together. I mean, just boom, boom, boom.
Okay, the new album. There are a number of new things on this album, new approaches to the album. Tell me what's new about it.
You tell them.
Basically, its newness derives from experiments that I guess we've conducted over the last couple of albums through Hemispheres and Farewell to Kings. We were experimenting with a lot of new instruments and sounds and rhythmic approaches and so on. This time we found ways to put all those directions into a single stream, and consequently I think the album probably has a more direct feel to it.
The whole music industry is going primitive, new wave, minimal, rock and roll. Do you care?
Some bands have gone back to basics kind of thing, but those are the bands that can't do anything but play basics. But all the really interesting new wave bands seem to be developing and progressing into more interesting styles.
Who do you listen to at home?
All kinds of people. Recently been Talking Heads and on the turntable a lot. The Police.
I was a huge fan of the Police and Ultravox and all these new English bands. I loved them. It became a part of our sensibility. Permanent Wave still had a couple of longer songs on it, but The Spirit of Radio was the emblematic song of that period, and the mix of sounds in it, the approach, electronic music and reggae, that's all the stuff I was listening to.
The words of the prophets were written on the studio wall.
I seem to have that knack of being able to use time signatures at will and yet make them feel seamless. If you're changing time signatures and your audience aren't really aware of it, then you've got something special.
Rush finds a real interesting way of sort of drawing a straight line through the song, whether it's melodically or rhythmically. When you put together the sound of the band being so recognized and their ability to make sure that there's a lifeline for people out there that can't quite tap their foot to an odd time signature, that makes what Rush does genius when it comes to still being able to be played on the radio.
We are secrets to each other. Each one's life a novel no one else has read. Even joined in bonds of love, we link to one another by such slender threads.
I think Permanent Waves was, in a way, the most important stepping stone, because just like Caress of Steels to 2112, there would be no moving pictures without Permanent Waves first.
As I define it, that's when we became us. I think Rush was born with moving pictures, really.
A Monday warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
It represents so much that we learned up to that time about songwriting, about arrangement. That's when we brought our band identity together, too. How we like to play individually and as a band at the same time. Now, when I look back on those songs, I'm glad to say to people that I will never get tired of playing Tom Sawyer, because it's always difficult to play right, you know? And anytime I do play it right, I feel good. suddenly we were on the radio everywhere that summer. Our concert audiences doubled. You could just picture it in the high school halls. You going to see Rush? Oh yeah, man, yeah, I'm going. You know, we were that band that year.
We were playing 120, 130 cities in America. We were going back to places where if we were a theater act at the start of that tour, by the end of that cycle, we'd gone back to those places and we were in the arena.
Their latest release, Moving Pictures, is #1 on Toronto's album charts, and they're close to selling out an unprecedented 3 nights at the full Maple Leaf Gardens. Here's a cut from Moving Pictures, platinum after only 4 weeks of release.
Yeah, I mean, look at how they look here. They look great. Yeah. That's pretty cool. All right. Cool. Yeah, great. Obviously, I wish that they spent an intense amount more time right here within these 2 albums, I would say, for sure, because this is obviously where so much magic happened for them. But, you know, they only have so much time. They got to move on. Got to move on with the documentary. This was cool. Yeah, this is cool. Oh, wow. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so they're going to get to Signals next, I assume. Not unlike the other documentaries. This is super cool. Not unlike the other documentaries. You know, you wish that they dug further into, you know, it's still a bit of a taster. It gives you more behind the scenes and, you know, like lots of great interview stuff. It is cool. But, you know, there's always going to be like, oh, I wish that they would have dug into this a bit more. I wish they would have just dug into this a bit more. You know, it's always going to be that way. Anyways, all right, we got part 5 coming up. I'll catch you then.